I'd like to call the Jacksonville City Council meeting to order. I'd like to welcome all of you this evening who joined us. Mayor Phillips is unable to be with us this evening. He had surgery on his hand, and we wish him a well and speedy recovery. Now I'd like to ask Ms. Angela Washington to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance, and our City Attorney John Carter in our invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, as always, we pause and give you thanks. You have blessed each of us individually, and you have blessed us as the city of Jacksonville, and we are grateful. We pray that we always may use our gifts and our talents in service to you and to our community and to our city, that we may live out our motto of being a caring community to all of our citizens. We pray for our military members who are serving us here and around the world. We pray for their safety and for their anxious families. And as always, we ask for your guidance to be with our council this evening. All this we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Seated. Next order of business is the adoption of the agenda and consent items, and I would ask that we remove consent item number 3 from your agenda, franchise ordinance, to a later date.
To a later date. Move for adoption of the agenda and consent items with the deletion of item number 3.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next you have the approval of the minutes of January 21st, February 4th, workshop and regular meeting minutes, and then the special workshop on February 18th.
I'll move approval of the minutes for January 21 special workshop, February 4th workshop, February 4th regular meeting, and February 18th special workshop.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Now it's time for public comment. Madam Clerk, anyone for public comment? Okay. Thank you. Okay, there's no one signed up for the public comment period. Is there anyone out there that wishes to speak? Hearing none, I will close this comment period and go to item number 8. It's commercial front-end collection ordinance and budget amendment. Mayor and council have conducted 2 workshops on the issue providing service for commercial front-end collection of garbage. Based upon direction from the council on February 18th, this agenda item will create the exclusive right of the city to collect and service commercial front-end collection and establish a budget for the purchase of equipment and early hire of employees. And now we'll defer to our city attorney, John Carter. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Council. Let me make sure I can operate this. Go backwards. Okay. Tonight, I'm going to give you an overview of the ordinance consideration that's before you in reference to front-end commercial solid waste. And let me first go to what I passed down to each of you, and that is, during the workshop, there was some question about our authority to do this in an exclusive manner. And I wanted to share with you that authority that's given to us by North Carolina General Statutes. And that is North Carolina General Statute 160A-317 and B in the subparagraphs thereunder. And basically, the first A, by the way, talks about your authority and power to make folks connect to your water and sewer. And B goes into the solid waste provisions. And we can read through a couple of those, but it says, a city may require an owner of improved property to do the following. And of course, to place solid waste in a particular receptacle. And number 2, to separate the materials, that is your recycled materials from your solid waste materials. And number 3, you have the authority to, again, require them to do that separation of recyclable materials from solid waste materials, but you don't have the authority, where you do have the authority to require them to turn over the solid waste to you, and you take care of that collection and disposal. You don't have the authority to require them to turn over the recyclable materials. And the reason for that is there's value in some of those recyclable materials. And I'll mention one of those values that in just a moment when I get down to that section. And then section number, subparagraph 4 there, you have the authority, and by you considering this ordinance here tonight, to require them to participate in any solid waste collection service provided by the city or by a person who has a contract with the city if the owner or occupant does not have a contract otherwise for solid waste. And we'll talk about that otherwise in a moment. The subparagraph C also I think is important for the council to understand, and that is, of course, that you may impose a fee if you decide to adopt and go into the business of commercial front-end solid waste disposal collection, that you can adopt a fee, but that fee may not exceed the cost of collection, okay? Now, the next thing I want to point out to you is where we are today, what your ordinance is today. And the first thing is there's 2 documents. The first one is Chapter 9. And Chapter 9 has a title on it. This is out of your ordinance book, your Code of Ordinance. And the title is Garbage and Trash. Chapter 9 goes back to 1968. I did a lot of research looking at other municipalities, and as you know, through this whole process over the last 2 or 3 months, everybody else calls it solid waste. Of course, theirs has been updated since then, and I'm going to tell you kind of why ours has not, to some extent, been updated. Because there's a second document that we have and that council has dealt with, and that is called City of Jacksonville Solid Waste Collection Code. The Chapter 9, Garbage and Trash, the last amendment that I'm aware of is back in the late 90s when the city actually went into a recycling program. And as part of that recycling program, there was a concern at that time, and a valid concern, because there was, as I said earlier, there was value in some of those items in the recycling containers. One that came to the council's attention was those aluminum cans. Are we going to have people that are going around bin by bin scavenging, getting the aluminum cans out of it? So again, in 1991, the council added to the code part where you cannot scavenge. You cannot go once you put it out at the street for the recycling. Now, the other provision that's unique here is Section 9-23, and it's one sentence, but it says this. It says, this code shall not affect the solid waste collection policies adopted on May 18, 1982, as now or hereafter amended. So one of the reasons this never was touched is because you did amend through this policy the moving from the backyard pickup on residential to the front yard once a week, twice a week in the backyard, if you remember, and moving from, it talks in here, and again, this was never amended, but it talks in here, the chapter 9, about the types of cans you could have in the backyard. And of course, now we know that everyone has the 96 rollout, and you have to roll it out. So again, you've updated it through this document. But as part of this process of looking at commercial waste, we decided that we don't need two documents. We need one document. And that's what you have in your agenda this evening that you're considering, and that is a new document that is entitled Solid Waste Disposal. And so we again are proposing through this document. So what we have done is we brought everything over into that under item number 8. We brought everything there that deals with residential, with medical waste, with recycling, and with this, what your main consideration is, that is commercial front-end collection service. Now, there's two important dates, and I'll ask you to turn at this time to page 189 of that ordinance. I want to talk about two sections here in reference to commercial front-end collection service. I'm not going to go over the others unless after you have looked at it and you've got questions about it, because it deals primarily with things that were, again, in this policy that we just brought forward and put forward in the code. But on page 189, section 9.18 is an important section. There's two dates. Number one, if the council tonight considers and approves this new Chapter 9 ordinance in reference to solid waste collection, the effective date is tonight, March 4th, 2014. However, the date of the service, the rollout for the commercial, is not until July 1, 2014. Okay? There's a reason for that. Number one, you have a valid contract through June 30th, 2014 with Waste Management to take care of the commercial waste. And they have told us that happens to fall on a Monday, that they will be picking it up through Monday, June 30th, 2014. Of course, the city's not in a position today to go out tomorrow and begin that service anyway. And of course, again, we have a contract that we will be honoring through that date. But I think that this, and I again talked to the School of Government and shared with them my idea, if you will, and they thought it was a good idea. But again, by having the ordinance effective tonight, we go ahead and we send the message. We are already tonight beginning an exclusive service of all sanitation in the city of Jacksonville, collection and disposal. Not only just residential, which we've done, but also the commercial. And if you're going to get into this business, it's a great time to get into this business because of you having the contract with Waste Management. And I'm going to throw out a figure of 530, maybe 580, but whatever the number of commercial customers are out there, according to Kerry Terrell, and he's here to give me any kind of backup I need or to answer your questions of specificity in reference to that. But whatever the number are, they're all served by Waste Management. You know, when you first started talking about this, there was a concern about other commercial haulers doing cherry picking, I think the term was used. Well, again, by this ordinance tonight, you're putting them on notice. And again, I've been told by Kerry and by Waste Management, there has been no cherry picking. None of the other carriers have got into the business. And by this ordinance tonight, you're telling to them, don't even think about it. Because come July 1, we're taking it over, and we're not going to get into any kind of displacement of that Monday through Friday service. Because we're going to take over those 530 or 580, whatever the magic number is, and come July 1, we're going to take them over because their contract, or our contract with Waste Management ends, and we'll be picking up the service completely and fully. Now, there is another statute that we haven't talked very much about because it really is not applicable to that Monday through Friday service. But there is some Saturday service, and I know in your workshop, and the manager has spoken to you on this, that you are going to be looking at providing this at least 6 days a week because the landfill is open on 6 days a week. There are, according to Kerry, there are 2 to 5, no more than that at this moment in time, who have some type of Saturday service. As I understand it through Kerry, they actually contract, I believe, through Waste Management, but Waste Management doesn't pick it up on Saturday. So they get this particular company, Pratt, from some other place, and they actually pick it up at a very large fee to have that Saturday service. Those 2 to 5, and they're primarily restaurants, as you would imagine, needing that kind of service. But again, we'll be working toward that because there is another statute that talks about displacement. And when you take over the 7-day, I'll call it, service come July 1, 2014, you'll want to take that service over. Well, if they have valid contracts at that time, you have to honor those contracts or buy them out of the contract, and there's all kind of specific language here in another statute that deals with that. Or you can go ahead through a process, and we're working with the clerk to do that, give them 15 months notice that you're intending to go into that business of Saturday service, and so therefore, again, they know after 15 months they're out of business, if you will. We did this, if you'll recall, those were here, when we went to this cardboard recycling. We had to deal with displacement a little bit then. And so again, that issue will come up for those 2 to 5. But again, it will not affect the primary purpose here of providing commercial front-end service to the businesses that are presently being served Monday through Friday. I'll again draw your attention to that same page, 189, and the third paragraph. It begins, all dumpsters, and it says, where non-metallic dumpsters exist at the time of the adoption of this ordinance, said dumpster may continue in service, but must be kept or be in good working condition, and may only be replaced with a dumpster complying with the city standards, which the dumpster there, which is above, talks about is the metal dumpster. So again, we're going to honor those who have contracts or leases or own dumpsters that are non-metallic, if you will, but when they need to be replaced, they need to be replaced with a metallic or a metal dumpster. And that's my next point there about replacing. The section that talks about the metal dumpsters is in the first paragraph there. It's the 4th sentence down of that first large paragraph. And to utilize an approved metal dumpster ranging in size from 2 cubic yard to 8 cubic yard dumpster. So that's where, if you're getting a new dumpster coming after tomorrow, you need to be looking at a metal dumpster. The only other section I wanted to point out to you is on page 197. You need to have in your toolbox all the tools. And I just believe you need to have that as far as your enforcement capabilities. You hope to never have to pick up some of those hammers and screwdrivers and so forth, and you hope to never have to use any of these tools here, but you have them because the state law gives you that. And what am I talking about that? State law says that you can make any city ordinance of this nature a misdemeanor if there's a violation of it. And a misdemeanor can have 6 months or up to a maximum $500 fine. In addition, you can have civil penalties. And those civil penalties are talked about here. So, and you can actually combine the two and utilize both of them to get compliance if you need that. So we've utilized all the tools in the toolbox that the legislature's given us to give us the authority, again, to say, we're serious about this. We're moving from not doing the front-end commercial to moving, and as well as the other ordinance sections here, so that, again, you have those. But I just wanted to point that out to you. And I'll be glad to answer any questions, and Carrie is here. And Gail, I think, is not planning on a presentation on the ordinance amendment, but if you have questions, of course, she's available to answer those, because you have also that in front of you to consider as well as the ordinance change.
Thank you, John. Council, any questions?
Let me make a comment regarding
Dr. Woodruff?
the monetary matter. You're entering into this service, if you so choose to do this, as an enterprise fund. Because the enterprise fund is just now being established, it does not have any working revenue. The budget amendment is a transfer from the general fund as a loan. It is not a full transfer, it is not a gift, it is a loan. If you approve this, this loan will allow us to proceed with the vehicle and equipment purchases, and obviously in order to start equipment with the beginning of a new fiscal year, we must hire the necessary employees at a specific time. This money will accomplish that. Over the next year, the fees collected by the waste charge for commercial will repay the general fund. As we said in the workshop, this will also be set up as an enterprise from an accounting standpoint, so you'll see a separate budget for this every year. Gail, do you want to add anything? Do you want to correct anything?
Thank you.
Questions that you may have?
Thank you, Richard. Council, any questions? Okay, no questions. The action needed this evening is the approval or denial of the proposed ordinance amending the city code and accompanying amendments.
Mayor, I would move for adoption of the commercial front-end collection ordinance along with the related budget amendment.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Councilmember Thomas?
Well, I stated my objections at the workshop. I just wanted to add one final comment that competition and free enterprise has provided us with the greatest standard of living known to man, and this eliminates both. And I will be voting against it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, next order of business is agenda item number 9. It's a Planning Advisory Board appointment of Leadership Development Member to represent the Community Development Advisory Committee. Dr. Woodruff?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, when you held a workshop with all of your advisory boards back in December, it was pointed out that 4 of your 5 advisory boards have a position on the Planning Advisory Board. However, Community Development did not. We circulated some proposals to you for consideration, and the comments received back from council concurred in a recommendation from the management that what you would do is invite a representative from Community Development to serve as a Leadership Development member on the Planning Advisory Board. We've had 3 nominations from that group. Mr. Willingham is your liaison. I believe he has a recommendation for you to consider this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Woodruff. Councilman Willingham?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. On behalf of the Community Development Advisory Committee, I nominate Colonel Grover C. Lewis III.
Okay, I have a nomination.
Any further nominations?
Any further nominations?
Move the
Okay.
nominations be closed and Mr. Lewis be elected by acclamation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, congratulations to Grover Lewis III. He's not with us this evening, but if he's watching, congratulations. Thank you, and that is the end of our council matters, and now we have another section of public comment. Is there anyone out here that wishes to speak? Please come forward. No one? Okay. Now I'll ask Dr. Woodruff. Reports?
Yes, sir. With the close of the Winter Olympics, we're pleased to announce that national and international attention will now be drawn to Jacksonville in that we will be hosting the pickleball tournament this weekend. We have from around the world 120 participants. We have assured the people participating that security will be tight but appropriate, that all apartment complexes and hotels will be available and in good working order. We would encourage anyone who would like to come and see this event at the Commons to contact for the actual schedule. Also, we'd like to specifically mention that Mr. Bittner is one of the gentlemen who has brought this very entertaining and in times exciting, I said in times, exciting tournament to our community. Well done, Mr. Bittner.
I'd just like the public to recognize the fact that I only brought it up from the suggestions of many citizens, but council itself saw the wisdom in setting forth this effort, so I have to compliment the council as well.
The one time.
Well done. The second thing, this evening in the workshop setting, we did have the opportunity to tour several of our park facilities and others. We would encourage the public to go by the area as you're coming in on the bypass where the memorial garden is being planted for the Beirut Memorial Grove. That is now underway. As you come in from the New River Air Station area, you will see the construction. We hope to have that completed within the next several months. We would also, as always, like to thank the mayor, who is not with us this evening, but wish him a very quick recovery, and thank the council for the leadership that you're giving this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Woodruff. John? Thank you, John. And I'll start with Councilman Warden.
I only have a couple dozen items to talk about tonight. Shouldn't take but about 30 minutes,
That's okay. Floor is yours.
but no report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Thomas? Angela?
I would just like to say the Environmental and Appearance Advisory Group is planning a citywide cleanup in the month of April. So more forthcoming information will be given once we have our meeting.
Thank you. Councilmember Willingham?
No report.
Councilmember?
Yeah, I have three boards to report on. Civic Affairs, at their meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago, they continued a review of the Civic Index, making good progress on that, and they also have been talking with various groups who celebrate their particular culture and heritage about the possibility of endorsing one cultural affair. They'll still retain their own cultural affairs, but the community would have one cultural affair for all groups sometime next year. At least that's what they're shooting for. Board of Adjustment met last week, and with the assistance of the attorney, they conducted a training session acquainting themselves with the nuances of the new law governing Board of Adjustments and the various procedures that have to be followed in terms of granting of variances. We had a meeting with Onwassa, and akin to the city, Onwassa is working on a complete revision of their personnel policies and procedures. And more noteworthy than that is that they're making significant progress on the Piney Green Sewer, which the city is a partner in, and that project is on schedule, and in fact, they're hoping to have a dedication sometime mid-year. And the northeast, or northwest, treatment plant is on schedule, and which is probably good news for all the Onwassa regulators, because during the heavy storm a couple of weeks ago, the Richlands plant overflowed terribly, and the state regulators came down hard on them again. So once we get that new plant in place, the Richlands plant will be history, and the environment will be further safeguarded. That's all I have. Oh, one thing. I enjoyed the tour tonight. It was interesting, particularly talking or listening to some of the people in facilities maintenance and the garage. It came across that the people we were talking to not only are very knowledgeable about the equipment they maintain, but take great pride in the work they're doing. And the facility itself is maintained almost hospital standard cleanliness. That's all I have to say.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Willingham?
I don't get G10 anymore, but do they have a segment on fleet maintenance on G10? Because I think it'd be very interesting if the public knew the good job that our workers do out there and exactly what they do.
That's
So-
a good idea, and we'll
Yeah.
take steps to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple of reports very quickly. I had the honor to attend the Metro Mayor's Coalition meeting in Charlotte with our Deputy Manager, Ron Massey. We were hosted by Mayor Patrick Cannon in Charlotte. It was a very good meeting. We had Governor McRory as one of our guest speakers, and it was a very informative meeting. We discussed the upcoming short session at the legislature and started working on our priorities for the year. Just several brief comments from Governor McRory. His focus of work is teachers' pay for entry-level teachers, Medicaid, and the uncertainty of what the end costs will be and deficit for the state. He's also asking many of his agencies to cut 2% of their budget. And a great deal of concerted effort for economic development in North Carolina and very excited about the new transportation 25-year plan that will be unrolled very shortly. So very good meeting, and more to come on that. Tourism Development Authority, we had our March 4th meeting, and the Development Authority has received several after-action reports that demonstrated that funding provided by the authority has increased overnight stays in our Jacksonville lodging facilities. The reports and the actions that have helped build the events drive overnight stays and will continue to drive these overnight stays in the future. And exactly because of that, it's the reason the authority voted at our last meeting to continue the Tourism Promotion Fund for events, festivals, and activities designed to put heads on beds. We are also taking applications for the FY15 Tourism Development Fund. Those applications have gone out today. If you know of an event that could potentially put heads on beds and be a benefit to our Jacksonville city and promote lodging facility stays and did not get an application, please call Carmela George and or visit the city's website. Strategic discussion in preparation for our long-range capital budget discussion. The Tourism Development Authority will meet in an extended session on April 17th. During that time, we will hear from those who work the development of tourism every day about their view of the future. The authority will hear those reports and then consider awards for the tourism promotion funds. This session is set for 10:30 a.m. Thursday, April 17th in meeting rooms A and B, and it is open to the public. So we welcome and encourage you to come and be part of the discussion. We're very proud of the work that we have done. We have made significant progress on putting heads on beds, and we are working with our hoteliers to look at their dip months and to work on activities that will help enhance those months and to bring their occupancy rates up. And we have made, again, tremendous process. Also, I really need to thank staff because they've done a terrific job. Glenn and his team, Gail, John, collecting and managing and keeping us within the guidelines, and all the applicants and reports. I think we're a model in North Carolina on how TDA should be administered. So I'd like to thank them for their work, and also like to thank the staff for the tour today. You know, we often get bogged down in the work that we do, and we really don't see the fruits of our efforts. And today was an eye-opener to see the beautiful parks that we have and the improvements that we've made. Our public works facility, I mean the maintenance facility, just an unbelievable facility, immaculate. The amount of vehicles they maintain with just 6 people, 6 mechanics, it's amazing. So kudos, and thank you for the eye-opener, and continue the good work. And that's all I have. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're done.